Hey folks, JJ coming to you from the spray booth in downtown Cleveland for Jewett Guitars. And what we're doing today is we're at day 2 of a high-tech finish of a guitar using the Ilva and Silvertip products. Yesterday we applied the epoxy and we kind of went over how to do that. Today, what I've done is I've gone ahead and I've sanded back the epoxy, and I want to show you where we are with the guitar body and the neck at this point. Hang on. Okay, so what I did, if you remember yesterday, just to recap, I sprayed a coat of de-wax shellac, 1 coat of de-wax shellac on the spruce top. It was mostly just to protect it. And what I've done since then, the epoxy dried overnight. It dried well. Now, I just want to make some comments about epoxy and drying. What we do here at Jewett Guitars is in the winter, to make sure this stuff dries correctly or dries properly, I put a little heater in the spray booth overnight just to make sure it's cured. But you can usually tell that it's properly cured when it's hard enough with your fingertip. You'll feel it. But also, the best way to check for any product really to see if it's cured correctly is to sand it a little bit. And if it powders up nicely like that, you know that it's cured correctly. So what I did was I took some 320 grit sandpaper and I sanded back the epoxy on the back. Now, where it was kind of heavy, or the epoxy was kind of heavy, you'll notice that I sanded through to bare wood. I want to show you that that's not a problem at this point. I went and did the sides again using 320, and I want to show you a couple things. One, right here, you'll notice that there's kind of that area right there. That's a low spot in the wood. We will basically fair that out when we apply the urethane top coats. We'll maybe put a little, I'll make a mental note to apply a little bit more there. And because the urethane is a very high solid, you can actually kind of use it to fair that out so that it's level. On the back wedge here, you'll notice I've got some low spots there. Okay, we want to fill those with glue boost at this point before we put the urethane on. You don't want any real low spots like that because the urethane will just build unevenly. So we'll take care of that. And I also did the same thing with the rosette. I have a few low spots, which you can see. I'm going to fill those with glue boost. Any other real gaps in the binding or any other problems, it's best at this point to fill it with glue boost. Now, I just want to show you something. These areas here where it looks like we've sanded through to the wood, in a lot of cases that would cause a problem when you start applying clear coats. But I don't think it's going to be a problem. But just to show you how we check for that, let me show you this little trick. Naphtha is the finisher's best friend. And let me show you what I'm going to do with this naphtha to check to see if that's going to be a problem where it looks like I sanded through. So I put some naphtha on a rag and I'm just going to wipe it. Now, when wet with naphtha, you can see that that little difference there is not going to be a problem with my clear coats. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a day with epoxy application on this back. Now, when you look at the back, when it's wet with epoxy, you'll probably see that there is a little bit of open grain. That's okay at this point because the Ilva urethane is a very high solid, it's almost 50%. It's a little bit less than that when it's reduced with thinner, but it will build very quickly, almost like polyester, and it will fill this grain. So I'm not concerned with that, but if you had a wood like cocobolo, maybe East Indian rosewood, Wenge definitely, any wood with really deep pores, you may want to apply another coat of epoxy. That's up to you, but it generally isn't a bad idea to do it if you're not sure. And then what you would do is, of course, just sand it back the next day. The neck is fine, okay, so we can go straight to urethane on that. As I mentioned, we've got some low spots on that tail wedge and a couple other areas, so I'm going to go ahead and fix those with Glue Boost before we start the urethane application.